Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius. Let's start with a truth no one likes to admit. People don't always tell you when they lose respect for you. They don't call you out. They don't send a message. They just slowly start pulling away. They stop trusting you. They stop including you. They stop listening to your words. Not because they disagree, but because something about the way you show up no longer feels steady, strong, or respectable. The most dangerous thing about losing respect is this. It often happens quietly, not with a loud bang, but with small cracks in the way you carry yourself. And the worst part? Most of those cracks come from habits you don't even realize you've formed. You think it's just the way you talk, or how you handle stress, or that you're just being real. But over time, those little things, the sarcasm, the lateness, the blame shifting, the quiet gossip, the need to always have an excuse, they start adding up. And before you know it, the foundation of how people once saw you, it's already gone. That's what this video is about. Not about making you paranoid, not about making you perfect, but about waking you up to the subtle, invisible habits that might be costing you more than you think. Let me ask you this. Have you ever walked into a room, noticed the energy shift, and thought, did I do something wrong? Have you ever had people slowly stop confiding in you? Or felt like your words didn't carry the same weight anymore? That kind of shift usually doesn't come from one dramatic mistake. It comes from the erosion of character, of trust, of presence, caused by unexamined habits. But here's the good news. Every habit that destroys respect can be unlearned. And every action you take to restore it, no matter how small, builds a stronger, more disciplined version of you. Not someone who begs for approval, but someone who naturally earns trust. Someone who doesn't have to say, respect me, because they live in a way that makes it inevitable. And this isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the kind of person you were meant to be, but maybe stop showing up as. This is where Stoicism comes in. Not the academic kind, but the practical, modern Stoicism that teaches you how to live on principle, not impulse. How to act with integrity even when no one is watching. How to respond with strength, not ego. And how to earn the kind of respect that doesn't disappear when people disagree with you. Because it's rooted in your character, not your charm. In this video, we're going to walk through 7 habits that quietly destroy the respect people have for you. No fluff, no sugarcoating, just straight up clarity, inspired by timeless Stoic wisdom and lived human truth. Each one of these habits might seem harmless on the surface, but over time, they weaken your presence, your power, and your ability to lead. Not just others, but yourself. So here's your choice. Keep these habits hidden in the dark and let them erode your influence day by day, or bring them into the light, face them head on, and rebuild a foundation of strength, self-respect, and quiet authority. Because like Marcus Aurelius said, don't waste your time debating what it means to be good. Just be it. Let's begin. Part 1. Gossiping, the slow poison of trust. Let me ask you something most people never say out loud. When was the last time you talked about someone who wasn't in the room? Be honest. Maybe it felt harmless. Maybe it even felt like connection, like bonding over a mutual frustration or laughing over someone's flaws. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Every time you speak about someone behind their back, even just a little, you quietly damage 2 people. Not just them, but yourself. You see, gossip is like sugar-coated poison. It feels good going down, gets attention, gets a reaction, maybe even makes you feel important for a moment, but it rots the foundation of trust wherever it spreads. People might laugh along, they might nod or even agree with you, but somewhere in their minds a quiet question rises. If they talk like this about others, what do they say about me? And that question doesn't just vanish, it lingers, it spreads. Suddenly people become cautious around you. They hold back, they filter what they say, and without ever confronting you directly, they begin to step away, not because they hate you, but because they no longer trust you. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "It is a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness, and gossip, it's the easy path, the shortcut that leads nowhere. It's the habit of those who would rather dissect others than develop themselves." Because let's be real, it takes no effort to point out someone else's flaws, but it takes real strength to confront your own. And that's what makes gossip so tempting. It's a distraction from our own insecurity, from our own imperfections, from the uncomfortable truth that we'd rather talk about someone else's mess than clean up our own. But the damage doesn't stop at trust. Gossip has long-term consequences. It creates distance in relationships. It turns real conversations into guarded exchanges. It builds a reputation, not of power, but of pettiness. And the worst part? In today's world where words travel fast, one careless remark can spread like wildfire. Reputations crumble, friendships break, and respect, it disappears in silence. So ask yourself, is that moment of relevance, that 2-minute story, really worth the erosion of your integrity? The Stoics didn't believe in being passive. They believed in practicing restraint. And restraint doesn't mean weakness. It means you have the strength to hold your tongue when the easier path would be to speak recklessly. Epictetus once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." There's power in silence, wisdom in knowing when not to speak, and immense self-respect in choosing not to fuel the fire. So the next time gossip sneaks its way into the conversation, steer it away. Say calmly, "I'd rather not talk about someone who isn't here to speak for themselves." Or simply change the topic to something of real value. People will notice, not because you said something impressive, but because you didn't take the bait. That's the kind of presence that earns respect. In a world obsessed with headlines and whispers, be the one who speaks with purpose. Or not at all. Be the one who doesn't need to tear others down to feel elevated. Because at the end of the day, you have a choice: to be the lighthouse, solid, steady, trusted, or the drifting tide, pulled in every direction by rumor and noise. And your choice becomes your character. Part 2, passive-aggressive behavior, the silent killer of relationships. Let's talk about something that ruins more relationships than shouting ever could. Not yelling, not slamming doors, but something quieter, colder, and far more confusing. Passive-aggressive behavior. You know what I mean. That "I'm fine" when clearly nothing is fine. The sarcastic remark meant to sting, but not too directly. The silent treatment, dramatic sighs, or cryptic comments like, "I guess you're too busy these days." On the surface, it seems harmless, maybe even more civilized than confrontation. But here's the brutal truth. Passive aggression doesn't avoid conflict, it buries it. And what we bury doesn't disappear, it festers. Instead of clearing the air, passive aggression turns relationships into guessing games. It forces the people around you to decode your mood, your silence, your tone, while you quietly wait for them to figure it out. But no one wins that game. Let me tell you about John. John felt unappreciated in his relationship. He didn't say anything. Instead, he shut down emotionally. He made sarcastic jabs, rolled his eyes, and gave his partner the cold shoulder, all the while thinking if she cared, she'd notice. But here's what really happened. She didn't read his mind because she couldn't. And the more distant he became, the more disconnected she felt. What started as unspoken resentment ended in emotional distance. By the time John realized his passive behavior was pushing her away, it was almost too late. Ask yourself, have you ever expected someone to read your mind? To guess why you're upset instead of saying it out loud? It's a hard truth, but worth facing. No one can meet your needs if you're not honest about them. And no one can trust you deeply if they never know where they stand with you. Epictetus, the Stoic teacher, said it clearly. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Avoiding honesty isn't strength. It's fear dressed in politeness. We avoid real conversations because we're afraid. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of being rejected. Afraid of being misunderstood. But here's what you need to know. Avoiding conflict doesn't prevent pain. It prolongs it. It magnifies it. And worse, it replaces trust with tension. This doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. Think about your workplace. That coworker who isn't doing their part, and instead of addressing it, you send cryptic emails or give subtle jabs in meetings. Do you think they respect that? Do you think your silence makes things better? Respect doesn't grow in the dark. It grows in clarity. And emotional games, no matter how subtle, kill that clarity. Stoicism teaches us that maturity means choosing directness over manipulation, clarity over confusion, responsibility over resentment. So the next time you catch yourself wanting to drop a hint or punish someone with silence, pause. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to say? Am I being clear or am I hiding behind politeness? You'll find that most of the time the answer is simple, and so is the solution. Speak up. Be honest. Say what you mean. Without hostility, but with courage. And what happens when you do? People begin to trust you. They respect you, not because you're always right, but because you're emotionally strong enough to be real, to handle discomfort like an adult, to face truth without hiding behind games. That's rare. And that kind of emotional integrity, it's magnetic. So don't be the person others have to decode. Be the one they can count on for honesty, even when it's hard. Because at the end of the day, people don't lose respect for you because you're imperfect. They lose respect when they realize they can't trust your words, your tone, or your silence. Choose clarity, not just for others, but for your own peace. That's the Stoic way. Part 3, never taking responsibility. The victim mentality. There's one habit that destroys respect faster than almost anything else. And it's not loud. It's not dramatic. It often hides behind a calm tone and logical excuses. It's the habit of never taking responsibility. You know it when you hear it. It wasn't my fault. I would have succeeded if they had just supported me. The timing wasn't right. And slowly, and without even realizing it, you become someone others can't count on. Not because you're incapable, but because you've made it a habit to blame everything except yourself. Here's the hard truth. Every time you shift blame, you tell the world and yourself that you're not in control of your life. And no one respects a person who has no power over their own direction. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, taught us to focus on what's within our control. Our thoughts, our actions, our choices. Everything else? That's noise. But when you refuse to own your part in a mistake, you deny yourself the chance to grow. You protect your ego, but at the cost of your evolution. Think about the greats, people who've earned respect not just for what they achieved, but for how they carried themselves. Take Michael Jordan. He once said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I was trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." He didn't blame his teammates. He didn't point fingers at referees. He took responsibility and turned failure into fuel. Or consider Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL and author of Extreme Ownership. During a dangerous mission, miscommunication led to a tragic friendly fire incident. When it was time to explain what went wrong, Jocko didn't blame the intelligence or the orders or even his team. He stood up and said, "It was my fault. I'm the commander. I should have made the mission clearer." And guess what? Instead of losing trust, he earned more of it. Why? Because responsibility is rare, and people respect what is rare. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." We don't take responsibility, not because we can't, but because we're afraid. Afraid of admitting we're flawed, afraid of being judged, afraid of facing consequences. But here's the shift. Taking ownership isn't weakness, it's leadership. And it starts with asking yourself, what did I contribute to this outcome? And what can I learn from it? Because let's face it, life is full of challenges. Not everything is your fault, but everything is your responsibility. Why? Because ownership gives you leverage. When you own your results, you also claim your power to change them. And the opposite, when you live in blame, you live in stagnation. People begin to see you not as resilient, but unreliable. Not as honest, but slippery. And over time, they stop trusting your word because your pattern has told them you'll always find an excuse. So ask yourself this today. Are you building a reputation of strength or of avoidance? Do people trust you to face hard truths or to spin them? True Stoic character begins with personal accountability. You can't lead others until you first learn how to lead yourself. And leadership starts with saying, "Yes, that was on me, and here's how I'll grow from it." So next time things fall apart, resist the urge to explain it away. Own it, study it, rise above it, because in a world full of deflection and denial, the person who takes responsibility stands out, like a mountain among shifting sand. That's the kind of person people respect. And more importantly, it's the kind of person you can respect in the mirror. Part 4, Poor Hygiene, the silent signal of self-neglect. There's something we rarely talk about because it feels too basic, too obvious, too surface level. But let me say this plainly. If you consistently neglect your hygiene, people will notice. And no matter how brilliant your mind is, they may stop listening before you even speak. It sounds harsh, but it's true. We're all visual creatures. Before someone hears your values, they see your standards. And when your outer appearance tells the story of disorganization, neglect, or apathy, what they hear is this: "I don't care about myself, and I'm not thinking much about how I affect the space I walk into." Now, don't get me wrong. We're not talking about fashion. This isn't about how expensive your clothes are or whether you follow trends. This is about basic self-respect. It's about showing up with a level of care that tells the world, "I value my presence, I'm prepared, I'm disciplined." Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And that's the heart of this. Your appearance is not just physical, it's a reflection of your mental state. If your mind is cluttered, chaotic, or checked out, it will show in your grooming, in your posture, in the way you dress, carry yourself, and take space in the world. Let me give you a real example. Two people walk into a room. One is clean, neat, composed, nothing flashy, but clearly intentional. The other looks disheveled, unwashed, like they just rolled out of bed without a second thought. Before either of them says a word, who do you instinctively trust more? Who do you want to follow, hire, or befriend? You see, we live in a world where time and attention are limited. People make snap judgments, and whether we like it or not, first impressions are silent, fast, and lasting. And that's why hygiene matters. Because it's not just about how others see you, it's about how you see you. When you start your day by taking care of yourself, showering, grooming, wearing clean clothes, you're not just prepping for the outside world. You're telling your brain, I matter, I'm in control, I'm ready to meet the day with strength. This is a mindset, not a mirror check. Discipline doesn't begin with your to-do list. It begins with how you show up for yourself when no one's watching. And here's the deeper layer. Poor hygiene often comes from a deeper place. Depression, burnout, resignation. When someone stops caring for their body, it's usually because something inside them has started to unravel. That's why this conversation requires compassion, not judgment. If you've found yourself neglecting the basics, ask why. Are you overwhelmed, disconnected, lost in autopilot? Because restoring hygiene isn't just about smelling better. It's about rebuilding your relationship with self-respect. The Stoics taught that greatness is born from mastering the small things. And something as small as brushing your teeth, trimming your nails, ironing your shirt, that's not shallow. It's structure. It's self-discipline in action. So here's a simple challenge. Tomorrow morning, before the world asks anything from you, give yourself 10 minutes to clean up, to prepare, to present your body the way your character deserves to be carried. And watch what shifts in your mood, your confidence, and the way others respond to your presence. Because when you take care of yourself, others see it, they feel it, and most importantly, you feel it. Respect starts with you, and sometimes it starts in the mirror. Part 5, Constant Complaining, the Mindset of Powerlessness. Let's be honest, sometimes life feels unfair. Work is stressful, people disappoint you, plans fall apart, and nothing seems to go your way. But here's where it gets dangerous. When those frustrations stop being moments and start becoming your identity, when you're no longer just experiencing difficulty, you've become the person who always complains about it. We all know someone like this. No matter what's going on, there's always something wrong. The weather, the traffic, their boss, their partner, their health, their luck. It's endless. And here's what most people won't say out loud. Chronic complaining doesn't attract support. It pushes people away. It drains energy. It repels trust. And it slowly destroys your presence. Because complaining isn't just negative. It's contagious. Spend enough time around someone who's always venting, and your own mindset begins to sync with theirs. But more importantly, and this is where it hits hardest, complaining keeps you stuck. It locks you into a loop of helplessness. You start to believe that your problems are bigger than your ability to respond to them. And once you believe that, you've surrendered your power. Marcus Aurelius said, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But most people do the opposite. They obsess over what's outside. They rant about what they can't change. And in doing so, they lose sight of the one thing they actually control: themselves. Here's a simple Stoic filter that can shift your entire mindset. Ask yourself, can I change this? If the answer is yes, then act. Make the call. Set the boundary. Fix what's broken. If the answer is no, then let it go. Don't give it your energy. Don't hand it your peace. Because the more you complain about something you can't change, the more power you give to it, and the less you give to yourself. Let me give you a personal example. Years ago, I worked with a guy, brilliant, talented, but always unhappy. Every lunch break was a rant about management, the workload, the system, even the coffee. At first we listened, we sympathized, but over time everyone started avoiding him. Why? Because he didn't want solutions, he wanted sympathy, and people can only give you that for so long before they start to pull back. Not because they're cruel, but because your energy becomes heavy to carry. And here's the truth. People respect those who seek solutions, not those who seek attention through problems. You don't have to be unrealistically positive. You don't have to fake joy. But you do have to take responsibility for how long you sit in a state of helplessness. Complaining might feel like release in the moment, but it's a trap. It gives the illusion of action without requiring any change. You feel like you've done something, but nothing's actually different. And over time, that habit becomes your default. You start to expect the worst. You talk like a victim. You think like a prisoner. And eventually people stop listening because you've trained them to expect negativity every time you speak. So here's your challenge. Next time you feel the urge to complain, stop, breathe. Ask yourself the question, can I do something about this? If yes, do it. If not, step back, reframe, and redirect your energy into something constructive. That shift alone can transform your relationships, your mindset, and your entire presence. People will start to notice the difference, not just in what you say, but in how you carry yourself. More grounded, more empowered, more resilient. The Stoics weren't about suppressing emotion, they were about mastering it. And you don't master emotion by avoiding life's difficulties. You master it by facing those difficulties without giving away your strength in the form of endless complaints. So don't use your voice to reinforce weakness. Use it to build clarity. Use it to seek answers. Use it to lead, and starting with yourself. Because true strength isn't found in having a perfect life. It's found in how you show up when life is far from perfect, but you choose to rise anyway. Part 6, being chronically late, a subtle form of disrespect. Let's talk about something small, but deeply revealing. Something that speaks louder than your words, louder than your resume, and louder than your intentions. How you show up, and more specifically, when you show up. Being chronically late may seem harmless. You might brush it off with a quick, "Sorry, I ran behind," or "Traffic was insane." But here's what lateness really says, without you ever saying it. My time matters more than yours. It doesn't matter if that's not what you meant, because every time you walk in late, people feel it. They feel disrespected. They feel dismissed. They feel like their schedule, their priorities, were made less important by yours. And over time, they stop trusting you to show up when it counts. Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, professionally. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." When you're constantly late, you're not just wasting your own time, you're wasting everyone else's. And that kind of waste quietly erodes respect. Let me share a true story. A CEO scheduled a high-stakes meeting with his executive team. Everyone knew it was important, but several team members showed up a few minutes late. The CEO waited until they sat down, stood up and said, "Time is the most valuable resource we have. If you can't respect that, you can't be on this team." Then he walked out. That moment changed the culture of the company. From that day forward, people were never late again. Why? Because punctuality isn't just about logistics. It's a character trait. It speaks to your self-respect and your respect for others. When you're on time, or better yet, early, you communicate discipline. You show reliability. You tell people, "I value your time, and I take this seriously." Now let's flip the lens. What does constant lateness say about you, to you, when you're always rushing, always behind, always apologizing? You're not just disrespecting others. You're training your own nervous system to live in chaos. You're reinforcing a pattern that says, "I don't have control." And here's the truth no one wants to hear. Chronic lateness is rarely about time. It's about mindset. It comes from overcommitting, from poor planning, from a hidden resistance to responsibility, or sometimes from a subtle sense of entitlement. They'll wait, but people don't always wait. Opportunities don't wait. Respect doesn't wait. So ask yourself, how many times have I shown up late and expected to be forgiven just because it's me? How many relationships, deals, or chances might I have undermined simply because I couldn't manage my time? And more importantly, what would shift if I treated punctuality as a non-negotiable form of self-respect? Here's the mindset shift the Stoics would give you. Being on time isn't about following a rule. It's about mastering yourself. It's about showing that you're not a prisoner to chaos, but a leader of your time. And when people see that in you, they trust you. They rely on you. They follow your lead, not because you asked, but because your discipline speaks louder than your voice ever could. So here's your challenge. Be early, not by chance, but by choice. Prepare ahead. Respect your own peace enough not to live in a constant sprint. And watch how people, quietly, naturally, begin to respect you more. Because in the end, it's not just about clocks and calendars. It's about character. Part 7, Making Excuses, Delaying Growth, Losing Trust. Let's be honest. Excuses can feel comforting. They shield us from blame. They help us save face. They let us off the hook, just for a moment. But that comfort comes with a hidden cost. Your growth, your credibility, and ultimately your self-respect. Making excuses might sound harmless, even logical. I didn't have time. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't taught how. But what are we really saying when we lean on these lines? We're saying, I fear the discomfort of responsibility more than I value my own progress. And the more we do it, the more we train ourselves to stay small. We don't evolve. We don't earn trust. We just get better at dodging mirrors. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." He wasn't romanticizing pain. He was reminding us, growth demands tension. It demands ownership. It demands the courage to say, that was me, and I can do better. Let me give you an example that might stick with you. Imagine two coworkers. One of them messes up a presentation and says, "Well, I didn't get enough support from the team." The other makes the same mistake and says, "That one's on me. I'll fix it, and I'll be sharper next time." Who do you respect more? The answer's obvious, because excuses repel respect, while accountability builds it. Even when someone fails, if they own it with clarity and humility, people lean in. They see strength. They see integrity. You don't have to be perfect to be trusted. You just have to be real. And here's the Stoic truth. Life doesn't reward excuses. It rewards action. It rewards discipline. It rewards those who have the guts to take extreme ownership. Not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Jocko Willink calls it extreme ownership. In the military, he once led a mission that went south. Lives were nearly lost. The easiest path would have been to blame bad intel, the enemy, or the team. But Jocko didn't flinch. He stood in front of his commanders and said one sentence, "This was my fault." No defensiveness, no drama, just total accountability. And do you know what happened? His team respected him more, because real leaders don't hide behind excuses. They stand inside responsibility, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. So let's bring this closer to your own life. Where are you still making excuses? Where do you keep saying, "if only," or "they should have," or "it's not fair"? What if you stopped? What if you just said, "That's on me and I'm going to fix it"? You'd feel a shift, not instantly, not magically, but powerfully. Because taking ownership doesn't just fix problems. It transforms you. It moves you from being a passive observer of life to the builder of your own character. People may not say it out loud, but they notice when you take responsibility. They trust you more. They feel safer with you. And most importantly, you start trusting yourself. So here's your reminder. Excuses are easy. Growth is earned. If you want to become someone others respect, stop explaining why you couldn't and start proving that you can. Because in the end, the only person who truly holds you back is the one making the excuses. Respect is earned, not demanded. Let's end with a truth that hits deeper the more you sit with it. Respect isn't something you can demand. It's something you quietly earn through who you choose to be, day after day, not by raising your voice, not by titles, money, or appearances, but by the way you show up when no one's watching. See, it's not always the big, bold moves that define how people see you. It's the quiet, consistent habits, the way you handle pressure, the way you speak about others, the way you carry yourself when you think no one is paying attention, because someone always is. And more importantly, you are. Every habit we covered, gossiping, passive-aggressive behavior, chronic complaining, excuses, poor hygiene, being late, and avoiding responsibility, they all have something in common. They chip away at your own inner respect before they ever impact your external image. Because when you repeatedly betray your own values, when you ignore the standards you know you're capable of, you start losing faith in yourself. That's when the downward spiral begins. You start settling, you stop growing, you carry a weight of quiet shame that's hard to shake. But here's the empowering part. You can reverse it, starting now. Starting small. You don't have to become a new person overnight. You just have to stop being loyal to the habits that weaken you. So ask yourself honestly, which one of these habits has been running your life? Which one is robbing you of the respect you deserve, from others and from yourself? Pick one, just one, and commit to changing it this week, not with perfection, but with presence, with clarity, with the kind of inner accountability the Stoics live by. Marcus Aurelius didn't preach perfection. He practiced self-mastery, and he reminded us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. That's your invitation today. Don't debate these lessons. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start walking away from the habits that dim your light and start building the habits that command silent respect. Because ultimately, this isn't about impressing others. It's about living a life you're proud of. It's about looking in the mirror at the end of the day and knowing, I showed up with strength. I led with discipline. I honored who I'm becoming. That's where true respect is born. That's where it grows. And that's how it lasts. So here's your final reflection. Which one of these habits will you stop first? Which discipline will you plant in its place? Let that question guide you today and tomorrow and every day that follows. Because every small decision to rise above the easy path is a giant step toward becoming someone unforgettable, someone grounded, someone steady, someone truly respected.